Ah, Battle for Seelow Heights. I guess that is one of the hardest mods that I have played. I can't seem to win this, no matter how much I try. I can't win this mod. It's absolutely insane how much it throws at you in terms of enemies, and you have nothing to fight against this storm of metal and steel and bullets, most importantly, bullets. The mod plays, of course, at the end of World War II, where everything is falling apart, where the outcome is basically decided before you even unpause, and where the game doesn't even try to pretend you have a fair chance at this. And honestly, the moment you load in, you can already feel that this is not going to be one of those runs where you casually steamroll AI and rewrite the history. The first thing that really stands out is that this mod isn't about rewriting the history, it's about being stuck at the end of it. You load in and you look at the map, and everything here feels just wrong. Not wrong in a buggy or broken sense, but wrong in a this situation is completely unsalvageable kind of way. You're not preparing for the war anymore. You're not even in the middle of the balanced conflict. You're at the very end of it. The mod is built around recreating the final months of World War II, with scenarios ranging from early 1944 all the way to just days before Berlin falls. And depending on which date you pick, you're basically choosing how bad you want things to be for you. Now let's see. You got January 1945. You're basically losing, but maybe, just maybe you can pretend you have some breathing room. March. It's getting ugly. April? Yeah, no. At this point, you're basically playing the epilogue of a war that's already over. And if you pick the late April start date, you're not even fighting to win anymore. You're just watching everything collapse around you in real time, trying to delay it by a few days at most. And that really reflects in the difficulty this mod has. And that's why this mod hits different compared to others in Hearts of Iron 4. Normally, even in difficult scenarios, you still have this underlying assumption that if you play well enough, or optimize enough, micro enough, you can turn things around, surely. There's always that feeling of, okay, this is bad, like really bad, but I can fix it. Here, this feeling is gone. There's no hope anymore. The mod is designed around historical accuracy, with proper division templates, realistic orders of battle, and all that good stuff you want in a simulation of war. Which sounds great, until you realize that historically accurate Germany in 1945 is not something you want to be playing as. Your army exists, sure, but it's hollow, your divisions are under-equipped, your fuel is non-existent at this point, your industry is struggling, and your enemies are stronger in every possible way. And I already told you the enemies are everywhere. That's another thing. You're not dealing with one front, you're dealing with everything collapsing at once. The Soviets are coming from the east, pushing hard and fast and relentlessly. The Western allies are advancing from the west, and they are not exactly taking it slow either. It feels like you're being squeezed from both sides, and there's no direction where you can safely retreat anymore. But then you're probably wondering, what am I even doing here? So, well, that's the thing. You don't win this. You don't even really fight back in the traditional sense. You manage, you react, and most importantly, you hope to survive. The entire gameplay loop shifts from strategy to damage control. Instead of planning offensive, you're constantly seeking yourself which part of your front is about to collapse next. Instead of thinking about long-term survival, you're thinking about how to survive the next week. And the mod leans hard into that. It literally frames itself around the idea of holding off the Allied onslaught. For as long as possible, of course. Not defeating it, not reversing the course that happened. Just holding it off. Which is kinda insane when you think about it, because most games are built around empowering the player. This mod does the opposite. It strips that power away. It puts you in a situation where you're fundamentally weaker, fundamentally outmatched, and fundamentally doomed. And yet, somehow, that's what makes it so engaging. Because even though you know you're probably going to lose this, you still try. You still micro your divisions, you still try to optimize your defenses, you still try to look for small opportunities, even small gaps in enemy lines, moments where you can counterattack, situations where you can encircle a few divisions and buy yourself some precious days. But those moments are rare, and they never change the overall direction of the game. You're always losing ground somewhere. Always. You might stabilize one front, but another one starts to collapse. You might win one small battle, but it doesn't matter because the enemy has more divisions, more equipment, and more of everything. And then, of course, there's logistics. Oh, how I hate them! Which honestly might be the biggest enemy in the entire game. Fuel is basically a myth for you. You have some at the start, sure, but it runs out fast. And once it's gone, that's it. Your tanks, now useless. Your mechanized units, barely functional. You can't rely on mobility because you simply don't have the resources for that. And that forces you into a very specific kind of gameplay, where you're heavily reliant on infantry, defensive positions, and just trying to slow the enemy down rather than to stop them. Air power is another nightmare. In a normal Hearts of Iron game, you can contest the skies, build up your air force, maybe achieve some superiority here and there. The allies dominate the sky in this, and you're mostly just trying to survive the constant bombing and close air support. A huge portion of your casualties ends up coming from the air war alone, which just adds another layer of pressure on top of everything else. And there's a good joke for this. If you see a white plane, it's the Americans. If you see a black plane, it's the English. And if you say no plane, it's the Luftwaffe. Of course, all of this combines into a gameplay experience that feels less like a strategy game and more like a survival scenario. You're constantly making trades-off. Do you hold this city and risk losing your divisions or your sanity? Or do you retreat and give up valuable territory? Do you commit your last reserves to stabilize the collapsing front? Or do you save them for later, knowing that later might not even come? Every decision feels heavy because you don't have the resources to recover from any mistakes. And the thing is, even if you play perfectly, even if you micro everything, even if you make all the right decisions, you're still probably going to lose because the mod isn't really about skill in the traditional sense. It's about endurance. It's about how long you can keep everything together before it inevitably falls apart. But here's the interesting part. Despite all of that, despite the difficulty, despite the frustration, and despite the constant pressure, it's fun. Like, really fun. Not fun in a relaxed, casual ways. Not fun in a I'm winning and everything is going great way. It's fun in a very specific, very intense way. The kind of fun where you're constantly on edge, constantly thinking, and constantly reacting to everything around you. The kind of fun where you lose track of time because you're so focused on just keeping everything from collapsing. And it's also weirdly immersive about it. Because this is probably the closest you will ever get in Hearts of Iron 4 to actually feel like what losing a war looks like. Not from a historical reading perspective, but from a gameplay perspective. You're not just told that things are bad, you experience it firsthand. You feel the pressure, the lack of resources, and the constant setbacks. It turns the game into a kind of narrative without having an actual story to tell. Every playthrough becomes its own version of the end of the war. Maybe you hold Berlin longer, maybe you manage a few successful counterattacks, maybe you collapse faster because something went wrong early on. But no matter what happened, it always feels like a story of resistance and actual defeat in the end. But that being said, replayability is kinda not given. On one hand, their challenge might make you want to try again, and that's okay. Just to see if you can last longer or do better next time. On the other hand, the overall situation doesn't change much between runs. You're always in the same doomed position, fighting the same losing battle. In the end, I can only say that this mod has really broken me in ways that I cannot even describe correctly, because it's just so impossible. You see all these units on the field and you know you have to defend. There is no defending that. There's no winning. There's no pushing the allies back in any point. I hope you enjoyed this little video of this mod. Let me know other mods that I can try and totally fail at this. Let me know, of course, in the comments, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye!